What's up, guys? Today I have a very, very special guest on my podcast. This one's for all you boss ladies out there. I have special guest. You might have seen her on your pre-approval letters. You've probably seen her on social media. Marisol Espinoza, also known as Home Loans with Marisol. Welcome to the
Scott,
podcast.
For the introduction, and thank you for having me on. I'm very honored to be here.
No, glad to have you. We've been rocking together in business now since what, 2018, right?
I'll always remember that year because it was a very difficult start when I joined Western Pioneer. I don't know if you remember, but that was the year that I unfortunately lost one of my closest uncles, which was like a second father figure to me. So I will always remember that year.
Yeah. And Marisol has always been, you've been like a pioneer with us, speaking of Western Pioneer, because back then we didn't have as much like training and systems and stuff. And you pretty much kind of taught yourself, and that's how you've always been. You know, where did you get your start with mortgages and, you know, getting into this business?
So I actually, like, when I was a little girl, I would always like watch like real estate shows and stuff like that. And like, I always wanted to be a real estate agent actually, and not a loan officer.
Okay.
And so like, I was trying a bunch of jobs. I mean, I was working like 2-3 jobs at once. I knew school wasn't going to be for me. So I actually never went to I did drop out of college twice, but both times that I went, I just knew it wasn't for me because I was a C student. Like I wasn't like, you know, A+, because I was just never really involved in school. But I knew I wanted to be like an entrepreneur. I just didn't know in what.
Right.
And so that's when I started to dab into like real estate and kind of start looking into it. And then I opened up to Jesus, which we were like in our beginning stages of dating. And then I told him like, hey, I really want to be a real estate agent, but I'm like scared of just working like commission only. And then he was like, do it, like quit the job. Like I'll support you 100%. And so he like allowed me to really like go full time.
That's great, man.
As like
Shout out to Jesus for that.
And so then I started interviewing because again, just the thought of like commission only like scared me.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should start as a receptionist first. And I just started applying for a bunch of receptionist jobs. And then in one of them where they called me, it was a mortgage company. And then they're like, oh, why don't you just get your LO license? Like you're more of like, I see you doing more sales and you'll make more money than a real estate agent. And when he said that, I'll make more money than a real estate agent, I was like, heck yeah, sign me up. Like forget real estate agent. Like, okay, I want to be a loan officer now.
Right.
And so then, that's when I got my LO license. And then I worked at 2 companies prior to, joining Western Pioneer. I did 1 year at each, and the culture wasn't there. And then when I finally interviewed with you and then I met Daisy, like I just knew that this was my home.
Yes. And it's just been such a ride together and seeing you grow in so many different aspects. Now, when you jumped into the mortgage side, was it W-2 at that time, or did you go all in on commission once you did become an LO?
So once he told me about like, so I actually didn't really work that long for that company, so I don't even count it because that's when I started to see the shadiness of that company.
I see.
And I'm not going to mention the company name, but yeah, they promised me a lot of things and then didn't deliver. So that's when I knew like this company isn't for me.
Right. Kind of the over-promising, under-delivering.
Yeah. So then
you saw that right away.
Yeah. And so then I started to notice that most mortgage companies, they don't really hire receptionists. And so I had no choice but to go full-time commission until I landed my first deal, which took me about a good like 6 months before I got there. Yeah.
Wow. Now, those are some great takeaways, guys, because, a lot of people struggle with that transition from moving to W-2 to a 1099 or to commission-based only. A lot of times we say, hey, at least have 3 to 6 months of reserves before you take that leap. And you just, kind of jumped out the plane and figured out the parachute on the way down.
Yeah, because I didn't even have a savings to fall back on. That's why it scared me even more because, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was living in Monterey for a little bit, not Monterey, but like Sand City. And I left that job to move back to Fresno and but I knew then that I didn't want to work, like I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So I started to, you know, just do research, and I'm like, how are all these people that aren't living paycheck to paycheck? Like, what are they doing? And so I just, you know, bet on myself, and here I am.
That's awesome. I mean, you obviously wanted more for yourself, understood that, you know, if you're just taking a job, a receptionist job, just to pay the bills, it's kind of, you put a cap on yourself, and you trade your hours for dollars, but you saw the exponential growth with commission. And I mean, you know, look where you're at today. But I still want to talk about when you first stepped into Western Pioneer and with us in 2018. One thing I noticed with you right away is you're very independent. You took clients on right away. You were meeting them in the conference room, like literally the first 2 or 3 weeks, you were back to back on just setting appointments on your own. And, you know, from an observer standpoint, it was very impressive. Have you always been independent like that?
Yes. I have no choice. Like, I come from a very humble beginnings. Both my parents, like my dad has worked in ag all his life. You know, they don't get paid much. And then my mom worked also in ag and then at a tomato factory. And yeah, they just didn't have like the resources or the tools or the knowledge. So I've always had to figure it out. Even in school, like they didn't speak English. So I had to figure out how to do my own homework because I was the eldest. I didn't have older siblings that can teach me like how to do my homework at home. You know, I had to figure it out myself.
Yeah. But you got to display your parents' work ethic. And I think that's really instilled in you. And yeah, I know you're the oldest in your family, and you've really taken that mothery and that leadership role within your family. And I've seen you just, you know, just take responsibility in that aspect, and much props to you in that area. I remember one time we had these like agriculture scissors at the old office, and I handed it to you, and you're like, oh, this reminds me of my mom when she was, you know, working in the fields. And that hit home to me. That was like, man, that's she's going to be so successful because that's the humble beginning she's, you know, came from. And, you know, and the things that have instilled in you, the work ethic, the positive attitude and stuff, those things are priceless. And I think that's just shows in your character on why you're so successful today. Yeah.
And I want to like, definitely like, I think my parents, although they didn't have like the knowledge, the resources, they did give me like the support like that they could provide at the time, you know? So I think because of them, I do have that hard work ethic. So I do want to give them credit where it's due, you know?
Right. And I think that also carries over to your loving and your caring and your compassionate spirit as well. We could kind of talk about maybe your journey you went on last year, but I see that in you as well. So, you know, maybe not had the financial means, but you grew up in a loving household, a supportive household, a hard-working household, which to me, those things are priceless and so much more than, let's say, a silver spoon person that didn't have love, but, you know, just had a trust fund.
Well, it's because like when you don't have something, you like, and then you finally have it, like, oh my God, I don't want to get emotional, but you appreciate it like so much more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you've never been in the valley or had setbacks, you can't, you know, enjoy the fruits of your labor and stuff like that. Yeah.
And as Scott has seen me crying like so many times, I always get emotional when I talk to him, but in a good way, because we actually have like deep, meaningful, like conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why, you know, when we go into business with each other, it is personal because, you know, we can discuss some of our hardships, our pain points, you know, stuff about my family that we've shared together and have commonalities with. So, that's why it's just been, you know, so awesome to work alongside you, to see you grow. How about sales? Let's talk about sales a little bit. When you first got into the commission base to sales, was that a difficult transition, or do you feel that you were just thrown in the fire?
I was thrown definitely in the fire because at the time, I don't know, I felt like the industry was a little bit different when I joined. And maybe it could be because I was so new and I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any connections in real estate or in lending. I was like brand new. So I never had like a mentor to really show me the way.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely felt like I was thrown in the fire. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you enjoy sales? Is that a you know, something that you've always had in you, or is that something you've had to kind of learn that trait and get out of your comfort zone?
No, I've always been like a hustler. When I when I was 14, 15, when I was in high school and I found out that you could get a job once you turn 16, I told my mom, I want to get a job, you know, because my parents were too poor to put me in any sports. They couldn't afford it. So I was like, okay, and they couldn't buy me things because they just didn't have the means to. So when I found out that, you know, I could get a job at 16, I was like, heck yeah, like I'm going to start applying. And so like I went to the mall, applied for a bunch of, you know, retail jobs. And then I applied at In-N-Out, and In-N-Out was actually like my first job. And then that kind of taught me like some important skills like customer service and everything like that. And then I lasted there for, I want to say it was like till I was 19. So like 3 years. And then I joined working at a bank. And then that's when I started to dab into more like sales.
That's awesome.
And then from there, I went into marketing, which was like Bud Light, Budweiser, Grey, all the alcoholic beverages. I was like marketing them. And then that taught me even more like sales skills. And yeah, so I feel like I had a little bit of a background.
That's, I mean, you have a full ecosystem with customer service, with management, especially, you know, with In-N-Out. I mean, that company, I mean, when you greet them and you talk to them, you order a burger, they're always in a positive, you know, mindset. They're happy. So that's, you know, probably a good foundation that you came from.
Yeah,
and
they really value quality over quantity. That's why they're very strategic, even when they place their stores. And they take care of their employees. They're not like nickel and diming their employees.
Right.
Like a store manager at In-N-Out can live a very good life. And so I always like admire that from such a huge company. And so like that's kind of how I wanted to also like implement into like, you know, my business, you know, and how I, you know, do business with other people too.
Right. And it completely shows, especially of your systems and your thoroughness. That's one thing. If you get a pre-approval letter from Marisol, you better believe that thing is closing. She is so thorough, almost sometimes to the point where I'm like, hey, you're spending 2 or 3 hours in this meeting. Like, you know, let's try to condense it. But, you know, you're very thorough on your pre-approvals. You're one of the best, if not the best out there.
Thank you.
On if your pre-approval and your name is on some, it's closing. And we don't always see that in our industry, especially from banks and stuff like that. People don't thoroughly go through income or really check some of the deposits on the bank statements. You comb through a file that is very clean.
And I've gotten faster at it, by the way. So I think it's helped too, like, you know, with the new systems that we've had in place and stuff like that. So it doesn't take me 2 to 3 hours anymore. It used to, but like, I'm always asking myself, like, how can I get better? Like, how can I condense this so I'm not spending 2 to 3 hours?
Well, it's that quality over quantity. You know, you've always wanted to make sure that you take care of your clients with the utmost care and the utmost quality versus just banging them out, treating like a number.
Yes.
I noticed that most of your clients become friends and they're, you know, relationships that you foster.
Yes. Yeah. Because I don't, when I meet with a client for the first time, I don't want them to feel like I'm rushing the appointment. I want to give them my undivided attention. And so, because, you know, they're like here and like buying a house is so, financing a house is so like scary. So I want to make sure that they feel the comfort that they need when they're making that decision.
Right. I mean, check out your Google reviews, and that just explains it all.
Thank
right
you.
there. So,
yeah.
With your mortgage career, what would you say, has there been any mistakes that you can share with us, or maybe some challenging points in your career?
I mean, yes, I feel like it's, you know, you're learning, and every year you are making mistakes, whether you know it or not, but like that's what mistakes are for, so that you could learn from them and grow from them. So, but yeah, I think probably one of the mistakes, you mentioned it earlier, was spending like 2 to 3 hours and like overthinking things and like making sure that, I guess one of the biggest mistakes that I've done is afraid to make mistakes. And so last year I learned that it's okay to make mistakes because you learn from them.
Right. As long as your heart's in a good place, as long as you have the right intention, yeah, mistakes are going to happen. And I've noticed that as, you know, I've been trying to grow myself, that I think it's part being a perfectionist, I guess, but that's not the way. We're all human. We're all flawed, and we all have mistakes. But that's a great takeaway that you overcame that.
Yeah, because again, I was afraid to make mistakes, so I wasn't doing things that I should have been doing.
Right.
Especially on the sales side, you know, like I think I told you like the other day, like, Scott, I think I need more, what was it? Role playing. I think I need more role playing because someone said this to me and I didn't even know what to say back, you know, because I never practiced role play because I was always afraid of it, you know. I think one time we tried, like, when I first joined Western Pioneer, and I was like, no, this is too cringe. I'm more not, like, I just felt like I don't know, I just wasn't there. And like, that's why I don't really do role play, but now I want to do role play.
Yeah. I mean, you know, just frequent conversations, because at the end of the day, it's the same objections that do come up, and how do you handle those objections with confidence? And, you know, then we could start, you know, doing some embedded commands or just some psychology, but, you know, as long as we deliver the message to our clients, then, with confidence, I think that's what it comes down to. Now let's talk about, you know, you did some promotion and some marketing back in the day, and that kind of carried over into your career with being on social media. You've had TikToks that have had 1 million views. You've gone viral on a few of your social media platforms. Did your background in marketing and promotion carry over to social media, or where did social media come into play with you?
So when I first joined Western Pioneer, you know, I did not want to do social media. But, you know, I got talked into it and I was like, okay, I see the value in it. And I just know social media can sometimes be like a dark place, but it's also about perspective. And I was just last year, because there's so many mean people on the internet, and just putting yourself out there is scary, you know? And I just didn't know how to deal with it. So I actually took a break for, I think it was like 2 years from social media. Like, I was here and there, but like not consistent like I was before. But no, I feel like social media is kind of like a newer thing. Like, they weren't even doing social media when I was doing marketing and that those type of jobs. It still wasn't like as big as it is today. But it did help on the marketing perspective of, like, you know, people seeing like your name, and then they start to recognize you, and then you start to build trust with the consumer. So I feel like in that sense, it helped me kind of get like grasp the concept of that. And so that's why marketing to me is also like really huge. And you're also very, very creative, but I wanted to kind of dig into the bullying aspect of it, or what made you take a break. Was there just comments? Were people DMing you? What made you feel that you needed to take a break from social media? So yeah, I think it was like the bullying and stuff. And then I've been the type of person that's always like really hard on myself. Like, I don't know if it's like the perfectionist in me or what it is, but I'm always hard on myself, and I'm like, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done this, or, you know, just, I wasn't kind to myself.
I see.
So because I wasn't kind to myself, and then people kind of were saying the things that I already believed about myself, then it really got to me like on a mental, like, health base.
Because you didn't really show it, because you come off as, you know, and you are a confident, very strong, you know, a boss woman. So you didn't really show it. So those must be things that you were kind of,
because I always try not to
closed doors.
I know, because I always try not to show like my weaknesses. Like, I always try to like put that, like, you know, that, oh, I'm again, the perfectionist in me. Like, I only wanted people to see like the good of me, and not the like bad of me, you know?
Now, are you more open nowadays to, I wouldn't even call it bad, let's just call it the vulnerable side of
I think like now I was able to kind of address that and really kind of figure out why I thought about myself that way, and really get to the root of it. So now I don't think that way. Like, now I don't even care, because now I know that when someone tells you something, it's because everyone's a reflection of each other.
Correct.
So if they're telling you something, it's because like that's how they make themselves feel better, or maybe they believe that about themselves, and like in order, you know, they basically, you know, tell you. It might not be true, but like that's why people sometimes attack too.
No, that's 100% it right there. You know, we've had conversations about that too, about just being a little bit more vulnerable. I think that's why we're doing these podcasts too, to open up.
Yeah.
You know, so you had a mental shift with that. So last year you kind of did a journey for Marisol and took some time for herself. you've always been a very compassionate person with nonprofits and things like that. Can you maybe share a little bit about your journey last year?
Yeah. So last year, like the beginning of the year, I was in that hustle mode, and I just felt like I wasn't really enjoying life, like living life. And I didn't like the direction that I was going in, because I just felt like it was work, 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 work. And then there was really no like savoring like the fruits of your labor,
substance behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I started to start to feel unhappy, and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And yeah. And then so I went to something that my friend was doing, because she was going through something too. She's like, you should try this. Like, I think it'll help you. And I'm glad she called me and like convinced me to go, because actually it really did make me into a whole different person.
So this
more
was like
confident.
a mastermind or a group setting, or?
Yeah, like a group setting.
Okay.
And then they had a leadership program, and because I enjoyed the first 2 sessions, I decided that I wanted to go to the leadership program, because I was like, hey, I've never been in like a leadership program before, like a position. I mean, you've always told me like I should start my own team, and like I was never confident, because I never joined sports, because again, my parents never had the means to put me in sports. So I never had that like teamwork or like working in teams. I've always worked by myself.
Right.
So I felt like it was important for me to invest in that, and I'm glad I did, because now now if you told me like you need to build a team, like I would feel more confident to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, cheers to you for being very self-aware of where maybe some shortcomings are, to just go and find that. And that's one thing that I've been trying to do myself too, is network it more. I think we have a lot of similarities on, just kind of rolling and being the solo route. Mine was kind of fueled with ego, which I had to suppress that right away. And, your ego is not your amigo, is what we like to say. So I realized that I need to be around an environment of more high level people. I don't want to always be the smartest one in the room. I want to ask questions. And what I've been realizing too, I just got back from Las Vegas with a major social media influencer.
I was about to ask you, you just got back from Vegas and you met Ryan Panetta.
Yeah, I did.
How did that go?
Oh, it was amazing. I really got, some one-on-one time to just see his operation, some of his top guys and girls, just how they are doing things over there. But one thing I also realized, and what, they were telling me is he has something called like the wealthy way and a wealthy creator.
I love that too. I was like, when he announced it, I was like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah. And then he was saying that a lot of creators don't have a business acumen to them. So then he kind of launched like a business acumen to them. And then starting to be around high level people, you would think they have it all figured out, but they don't. And he's saying behind the camera, a lot of times these guys are damaged or they're depressed. So that's why he even started something called the Wealthy Kingdom, which it's, kind of a Christian or religious group together just to help save the businessman, because a lot of us hustle and nowadays I feel entrepreneurship is not only glamorized, but people make it seem so easy. And I'm gonna be the first one to tell you, it's not easy. The guy that's got the Lambo in a year is probably gonna lose that Lambo in a year. It's a constant grind of setbacks, of just of how you handle stress management, how is your emotional intelligence. And just hearing that from him too was just like, wow, even some of these biggest influencers out there don't even have it figured out. So trips like that really give me the confidence to come back and try to share knowledge with my team, but also to be more self-aware and more self-confident, like we've talked about, that hey, they still bleed the same way we bleed. They put on pants the same way we do, one leg after the other. And that's what I learned, is there's not that much difference, except for they're putting in the work and they're putting it out there, not thinking twice. It's just, if you got a reel, drop it out there and put it out there, and don't even look back on it. Don't.
And I admire that about you, because I was going to ask you, how do you deal with like the haters on the internet? Because you're constantly putting stuff out. Like, you're like one of the most consistent people that I see.
Right.
And so how do you deal
I'm trying,
with
and
it?
it's newer to me. I try to remind myself that, I've never seen a hater doing better than me. But also, like you said, a lot of times these comments are a reflection of one's own shortcomings. And so they're going to say something negative about you, or, you know, not agree with what you're saying or critique you. But then that should be confirmation that you're on the right path. When they start criticizing, when they start hating on you, then that's when you know you're actually getting out there and getting the attention. And nowadays, attention is somewhat the blueprint in business right now. You know, we talked about marketing. You got to get the attention. And it really goes in a cycle of what I've learned. So first you get the attention, then you get the criticism, then the criticism turns to hate, but then that hate turns to admiration. So it's a full cycle. And at the end of the day, it turns to admiration. And you know that you're just hopefully turning it into a positive thing. Don't let the negative, you know, weigh you down. Or, you know, we say you're too blessed to be stressed. So,
but yeah, attention, like you said, attention is the way that I see attention now is like, that's like the new kind of like monetization of like, okay, how many, what's your following like? Because then that's going to be kind of like your new network. Right. That's how I see the future. Yeah. I don't know, but
no, you're 100% on that. And growing up half Japanese culture is like fly beneath the radar, only speak when spoken to, move very, very, very humble. And, you know, I've had to have some shifts myself to just try to get out there and adapt to the times nowadays. And that's one thing we always have to do is just constantly adapt and pivot to where the market is headed. And as, you know, brokerages are moving to, you know, cloud-based brokerages nowadays, and being online, that's why, you know, it's so important. And, you know, that's why I always stress to you, because when you go full force on whatever you do, not only do you win, but you dominate. I mean, when you go full force on social media, you're dominant out there. Everyone knows you and talks about your videos.
Thank you.
Do you feel this year you're going to ramp that side of you up, or where are you at with that regard?
No, I've already kind of started like my own schedule of like when I'm going to be filming and when I'm going to be posting. So yeah, no, I'm definitely like going to go full force on it this year for sure.
Right on. Yeah. So you better look out, because when you're on something, don't you like you have something about cats too? Like, don't you have like 5 or 6 cats, and then you're known as the cat lady on social media?
I'm like,
or something,
at first I thought 6 cats was a lot, but now I have 10, and I'm like,
oh, you have 10 now.
I was like, I wish I was back to the 6. No, I'm just kidding. I love all of them. It's just it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Okay.
But they're all rescues, and yeah, I just can't leave them. I just have to like.
So are you known as like the cat lady, or
Gatita Mami?
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So do like cat brands ever like reach out to you or anything?
No, I feel like if I would have done, like maybe if I do more cat content, maybe, but I haven't been consistent. So no, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Maybe one day, who knows?
Right. With consistency, why would you say you're not? Is it time management right now? Is it stress management?
So that was one of the eye-opening things that I did from like the leadership program. How time management has always been like my number one thing.
Right.
And I've gotten better at it. So, it's been time management, and it's also like, what am I going to prioritize? And, at first I kind of was going in the direction of like, okay, I want to do like cat content. And I started doing like cat ASMR videos, but then, I did, you know, I just decided, let me focus on my personal brand first. And then maybe I can, you know, venture off into other little things. But, right now, this year, 2024 is going to be about building my personal brand.
And I think a lot of people want to see that, because, you know, you're very rare. You're a dominant boss lady in a male dominated field. And, you know, you just never know who you're inspiring. And oftentimes when they see Western Pioneer, they also associate Marisol with it. They're like, oh, Marisol Espinosa works over there. Yeah. So they see you, and you never know who you might be inspiring. And, you know, just to hear your interview like this, I'm sure you're going to be inspiring a lot of, you know, females to become boss babes, because you've grown into that position. And one thing I want to give you a lot of credit on is during the great times, when interest rates are at all-time low in 2020 and 21, I saw a lot of loan officers be very frivolous with their money. Nowadays they're probably just working on that. You not only bought a house, you bought an investment property, you got a short-term rental, so you did it right. A lot of people, didn't during that time start saving your money. Have you always been financially disciplined like that, or
I just try to follow whatever the rich people are doing. I'm like, what are the rich people doing? Because that's what I'm doing.
That's good. That's smart.
And I have great role models, you and Daisy. So I'm like, okay, what are they doing? Let me take notes.
No, but that took some discipline because you were already riding in the Mercedes, so you could have probably got the S550,
which I did have to sacrifice, and I did sell it.
That's what people want to hear, But you own properties. Airbnb, has that been a challenge for you, or has that been something you enjoy doing because you got an Airbnb?
So I enjoy it. I enjoy like the beginning process of it. I don't enjoy the maintenance of it, but I mean, it's there. I like it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you show how an investment can pay off for you. Is it labor intensive, like the hospitality aspect of it? Like, do you have to run down to Sam's Club to get toilet paper and do all that stuff, or do you have it pretty systemized?
I feel like it's pretty systemized. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't really take like much to. I feel like because, I have gotten better with like scheduling and like prepare. Like, honestly, preparation is everything, and that's what I kind of learned in the leadership program was like, you have to prepare. Yeah. That way, like, you're not like scrambling in the end.
Yeah, that's one of the takeaways where we talk about in our business. Morning routine is is something that definitely is a game changer. But morning routine starts with the night before. Are you ironing clothes? Do you have that out? Do you have your vitamins set aside? Do you have things already in play for when you wake up that you could just start getting after it? Or are you waking up, scrambling, and kind of figuring out on the way? It all comes down to prepreparation, like you just
I want to know
stated.
what Scott's bedtime looks like.
Lately, I would say probably like 9:30.
No, but like your routine, like, okay.
Well,
what time does your bedtime routine start?
Probably like 9 o'clock, because then I debrief my day, and then I do pretty much from 9 to 10. That's the only time I get not only to debrief my day, what could I do better, reflect on the day, plan for the next day, but also try to stay abreast on any industry news going on. Like, we just got word on Department of Justice sided with the Missouri ruling on the real estate commission stuff now. So,
oh, no way.
Yeah, so we might have to write offers and ask for our commission. But,
oh my gosh,
those are all of the things that I got to just stay on top of. I don't really have much time for leisure or scrolling. I don't even consider myself like a content creator, but I have to have the mindset like, I'm a creator, not a consumer. Too many people are just scrolling, looking at other people's lives. I don't have time for that. And if I'm not liking your stuff or following your stuff, it's just not that I'm not interested in you. It's just that I'm just focusing on myself right now and trying to level up.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just to kind of circle back on the conversation that we had, like, also it's like, content creator, I don't know, like it's more of like having like an influence, not like so much like your following or followers, but it's like, how can I influence these people? Like, what do you do with that influence that you have and that attention that you have? Like, are you going to use it for good, or are you going to use it for, like bad things? So it's like, you are going to be a creator, but you're also in the sense that you're creating something that's going to influence people to do positive things, you know? Wow. Like, all your content is like very positive and just very encouraging, and like you're basically giving all the golden nuggets of like, this is how to become successful. Yeah. And shout out to you, because you're the ones that kind of told me, hey, maybe you should do with this or show some vulnerability with that, which is true. I mean, I'm positive and I show, different things, and I want to funnel it into, because I feel I can help people, especially as a broker on the real estate and mortgage side, that, I also want you to grow into owning investments like you have, because, I mean, at the end of the day, do we want to be late 60s peddling loans or, bringing around a first-time home buyer? No, we don't. We want to scale out.
that's our vehicle. This is our vehicle to get us where we need to go.
And that's what I've admired from you, from like just meeting you like the first time and like sitting down with you, was that you never gave me that vibe. I mean, you know, this industry, there's a lot of egos in this industry. And I always felt like you were humble, and I could see how passionate you are about helping others. And I truly felt like when I came to Western Pioneer, like, okay, this man is like here to actually like help me, which is so rare to find in this industry. Like, you are always really quick to help, and you're just a passionate person. Like, you're very and like just involved. Like, I feel like you're not trying to take advantage of people. Like, you truly are trying to help everybody.
Right. And I appreciate that. And a fault to myself is I've also tried to help people that don't even want to help themselves. And I feel like that maybe I've pushed myself or pushed my influences onto someone that maybe they just don't want that. And I wanted it more out of them than they wanted out of themselves. So that's been a fault of myself, that number one, I'm not going to be able to help everybody. But those who are willing to take it on, I want to give myself wholeheartedly to, and give my best to, and share my nuggets, but also share some of my mistakes that I've made, and or challenges that I'm going through, or, you know, family stuff that you know, we've talked about. So I guess it's just being authentic in your skin. You know, and that's where I've tried to go. So
and I've always felt that from you. Like, I feel like you've always keep it 100, and so I don't know, I feel like you're a very authentic person.
Well, same with you. You know, you're very passionate. That's why you mentioned there's times that, you know, we got to bring out the Kleenexes, just because, you know, we're just speaking the real, speaking our hearts. There's nothing that is there to, you know, filter us, I guess. But also, you have to be comfortable around certain people. And, you know, I know who you are, and just, you're very, you know, compassionate, and, you know, someone very easy to talk to. So
I know. I feel like a lot of people think that I'm like mean, or
what do they call it? The resting B
I'm like
face?
the B word. They think I'm like the B word, but it's just, I've always kind of have like a shell, like, you know, like a hard shell, because I've always tried to like protect my energy and protect myself. So and then I think my RBF doesn't help. So but no, I'm very like, once you get to like know me, and I'm really like, I have a very soft inside, very and much. I'm always like crying. Even when I watch the news, I cry. And I'm always like, I'm a crybaby.
It's soft. I think it's just a caring side of you. You know, you care, and, you know, we talked about it. I guess it's that passion that we have. I don't know if it's, you know, just because we want more out of life, or you know, out of people, but it just it really comes from a good place, and those are characteristics. Don't let anyone take that care or that compassion out of you.
And that was like another thing that I like really took away from last year, because and I have to give them a shout out, like Efren and Karina. Like, I've always admired how open they are. Like, they just let anybody in, and just, they're very like quick to help someone. And again, me, I was kind of like the opposite, in the sense that I was very, very closed off. But I always admired that about Efren and Karina. Like, wow, they're so open. Like, they're just so trusting and always wanting to help out. And I always admire that trait from them. And I would ask myself, like, man, I wish I could be like them, you know, like more open and not so closed off and like overly protective of my energy, you know?
Right.
And and then I think it just kind of dawned on me, like, you can't let other people like dim your light. And so I kind of took that, and I'm like, okay, now I'm more like open. I'm more like, okay, and just willing to like more like help more, because again, I was very like too overly protective of myself, like afraid to make mistakes, and afraid to, you know, get hurt or whatever.
Right.
Because I care so much. So, you know, when I do get hurt, it hurts a lot, you know?
Yeah. And is it something, do you think, that we go through life, we're always going to have some hurt and challenges? Is it how we respond to it, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just been so great watching you and your journey, to see, you know, where you've started from, where you're going. I mean, and I just can't wait to watch you, to see where you're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, because you are someone that's constantly growing, constantly recreating yourself, but all at the same time, you know, you have your foundations of what makes you so special, and that makes you you.
I just don't want to get caught up in like the whole like hustle like mentality of just like making like the bag or whatever. Like I want to have a life balance, because at the end of the day, we work so hard so that we could live life. You know, it's not just about the money. Right. And in this business, like you could easily get caught up in that, in the whole like money chasing and all that. And I just don't ever want the money to, you know, become priority. I want, you know, like living, enjoying life, helping others, like what truly matters. I want to have that still, you know?
Do you believe in balance?
Yes.
As a businesswoman?
Yes. Because like at the end of the day, we want to be happy. And if we're all about just like paper chasing, that's where it leads to depression. That's where it leads to not feeling happy. And, you know, I know divorces happen and all this stuff happens. And I just don't want, I want to learn how to balance everything out. So, yeah.
It was very hard for me to learn balance. And that's why it took me a long time. You know, I didn't get married till 37. I became a late father because I was all in on business. But like you said, that didn't lead me in the right spaces mentally. But also when it comes to balance, I feel when you're in scale mode, I don't believe in balance. I don't think you can have it. I think balance comes after you reach a certain point. And that's why you've reached a certain point. I reached a certain point where, you know, now balance is everything. Like I want to be the best father and husband and have balance outside of work, because I have had, you know, where it wasn't balanced out. It's like a tire, you know, that the third wheel was all.
Yeah. And we're going to have days where it's not so balanced, you know, like there's going to be days where it's going to be more work. But I think balance is also kind of viewed in like a different way, where it could be like balance, like on a everyday, like your daily routine, for example, or like giving a little bit of time to everything, like making time for, you know, your family, like your wife, your kids, like yourself. Like that's why, like you said, like your nighttime and your bedtime routine are so important, because that's when you kind of, that for me is when I show myself love, like during my morning routine, and then my bedtime routine is when I give myself like, okay, this is me time.
Self-care. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like to ask this too. For Marisol, is it about the destination or is it about the journey?
It's about both. Yeah,
no,
it's definitely about both. Okay, so I do enjoy the journey because it's made me who I am today.
Right.
But the destination too, like, come on, I want to be like on a yacht and like, you know, on a nice beach. Like, yeah, I want both.
Right.
But it's mainly about the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly
it's a
about
great
journey.
answer. Yeah.
I want to have fun in the journey too, you know, like I don't want to just go through like heartaches and stuff. Like I want to live it up. Like I want to be like drinking some tequila, like taking some shots and having fun with my family and friends. And then hopefully, you know, like my partner too, and just like everybody, you know. So
it's a good way to look at it, you know. Gotta work hard, play hard, and enjoy life. That's because I just dropped a reel. Sometimes people never get the flowers and when they could still smell them. You know, oftentimes they look back and it's too late, and they have what we call the rocking chair syndrome. That I wish I would have, I could have, I should have, but I didn't. And you know, just this conversation reminds me. Let's enjoy life and let's enjoy the now. And
it's like living in the present, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I've learned that with my uncle passing away. You know, when I think I was 28 when that happened. Yeah, I was 28 when it happened. And it really was eye-opening in the sense that, like, you know, he was like a second father to me. And like to have that hard loss, I'm like, wow, like tomorrow, we literally thought we were going to see him. And then just to have that get ripped away from you, it's really hard. And then I also lost a cousin too when I was 23. And it's just like loss after loss after loss. I lost my grandma. I know. I don't know if you lost your grandma around the same time that was it a year or was it the same year? Because when did your grandma pass?
In 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the following year, my grandma passed away, and she was like a second mom to me. Like, my mom was always hard on me, and then my grandma was always like very like kind and like, you know, very sweet to me.
Right.
So I would always go to my grandma for like comfort. where with my mom, I wouldn't go for her for comfort because she would just make me like the hard person that I am, you know?
Right.
Because she was always really hard on me. Maybe that's when I realized like, oh, I'm hard on myself because my mom's always been hard on myself, but on me, I mean. And so, you know, like just having those losses is like, I thought I would have my grandma like on my wedding day, and like now I'm not, you know? So it's like, you truly, truly never know like what's going to happen. I mean, I could be gone tomorrow. So that's why it's really important for me to have that balance, because tomorrow is not guaranteed, you know?
100%. Wow. So, that's a huge takeaway. And your grandma will be with you in spirit. That's what I said when I got married with my grandfather. And yeah, and just during that time when you were enduring some losses, I saw how strong you were too, because you took a leadership role within the family, started making plans, and you know, just be the one to take the bull by its horns, you know, and just to see you do that through time of turmoil just reminded me how strong you were. And you know, that's why it's carried over to life and in business, and why you're very strong, and here we are today.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, like you know, I don't think my family who is no longer with me, I don't think they would have wanted me to just like be sad and like, I mean, I'm not saying like don't cry, or like I definitely had my moments,
Sure.
you know, but at the end of the day, like life goes on, and I know that they wouldn't want me to just be like full on depression mode. Like I think they wanted me to like still, you know, like, you know, I mean, I showed up to work, I feel like they still would have wanted me to like continue doing, and it actually helps for me, at least. I know some people might need the time off, but for me, I feel like I need to work, and then when I have my moments, I'll have my moments, like I'll let it out. But yeah, I don't think they would have wanted me to just be like feel defeated or depressed or anything like that.
That's an amazing takeaway. That's a mental hack right there, that you kind of showed, you know, honor and paid homage to them by kind of doing what they would want you to do. So that's a major
and it
hack
motivates
right
me
there.
even more, you know, like I want to break all the generational curses that we've endured, you know, and you know, just start a new like generation, you know. And yeah,
and you have been that person, and just to watch you you know, be that person in your family tree to make that change, and where you're continuing to go and grow is just, yeah, it's an amazing journey.
yeah, like I'm like, Grandma, like I'm doing this for you, like, you know, because she unfortunately, like, she lived a very hard life, you know, so I want to make sure that I honor her. Right. Yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. Hey, she sacrificed for me. What am I going to do with this opportunity now? Am I going to just, you know, put, you know, just not work and just, you know, just be useless to society, or am I going to take these things and make a difference? And look what you've been doing. So
thank you. And you too, Scott, because
you know,
I mean, you don't come from like a silver spoon either.
Right.
Like you know, you tell us a little bit about how you like grew up.
Yeah.
Like, did you do sports? Like, you know,
I did sports. I was always pretty athletic. 6th grade, I was actually the A team point guard. I was the quarterback, and I was the shortstop. But then realized by 7th grade, I wasn't growing, so I didn't have the physical attributes that I saw that would probably make it, you know.
Because at one point, did you want to go pro? Like when you were little?
I did.
Kid?
Jose Canseco, the Oakland A's were like my, you know, my team. Seen Michael Jordan at a young age.
Wait, was it Ryan Pineda that was in the Oakland A's?
He was.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Like you guys could have been playing together.
I know. Except for he grew a little bit, so I stopped growing. So I realized my physical attributes weren't gonna not only make like a team for high school and stuff like that, but then at that point I figured I would have no shot at, you know, being a Major League Baseball player. For sure not the NBA, especially being half Japanese, got studied on growth on that, unless I'm Muggsy Bugs or something. But yeah, so but I think it comes down to the same mental hacks that you had. Like, you know, my parents worked so hard to get me to a certain point. Grandparents worked very hard and sacrificed to get to a certain point, and I just wanted to take the throne and or should I say, take the baton and you know, just run with it on my own. So. That's something I continue to remind myself each and every day, that, you know, I could get better every day.
And then you also worked at a fast food. Well, I don't know if it's considered fast food, right? But you worked at a restaurant.
Oh yeah. Well, I worked at Mika's, which is Japanese fast food.
Oh, okay.
Worked there. Worked at Marie Callender's.
Where you learned how to make the
4.5
best
years.
cheesecake. I
Yeah,
heard?
yeah. I make that, for the family every Christmas time. Because we had to work, Marie Callender's, we had to work on Thanksgiving. We had to work on Christmas to get those pies out, even though I was a server at that point, learning tips. And it's funny, I talk to a lot of people that make living off tips. I'm like, what's tips stand for? They're like, I don't know. To ensure proper service. So
wow.
give you guys some game there. So
Is that really what it stands for? Did
it
you
really
like,
does.
oh.
No, it really does. That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, but nowadays tipping's kind of getting out of hand. I mean,
Yeah, it
Subway
is.
and these other places are asking for tips before they even make my sandwich. So,
I'm like picking up my order and they just turn the screen and I'm like, I literally like ordered online and you want me to like.
Do you feel guilty when you hit no tip?
No.
At first I was like, feeling guilty.
They didn't do anything. Like, I just think that the companies should not nickel and dime their employees. Like, they should be taken care of. Like, why are they putting it on the consumer?
Right.
Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I hear it's more of like a Western world thing, more of a U.S. thing. Like tipping's getting out of control. Like when Daisy and I go on vacation, she has to go to the bank and get, 10s, 20s, 5s and stuff. Like, okay, here's for the driver. Okay, the guy helping us with the bags. Boom. The bellman. Boom. The guy, it's next thing you know, we're just making it rain just to,
Yeah,
tip
like
people.
Jesus and I will go to like Mexico and like in the tourist places, like there is like a tipping culture, but like when you go like more inland to Mexico, like tipping isn't a thing and we get way better service in Mexico than we do here.
Right.
I just think it's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of Americans that feel entitlement. And so, hey, that I'm too. I'm guilty of that sometimes too. So,
Right.
I'm American. So it's like by default.
Right. Yeah. I do believe that we do have that entitlement complex. Because then when you go to other countries in which you've had the privilege of seeing is, the poverty level here is nothing compared to in other countries or third world countries. Like no one in America can be left starving. You can find a meal, but you go to another country, they don't have those meals.
Was it the beginning of this year? Was your first time going to Sinaloa?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you really got to see.
I got to go to Culiacan. I got to see the heart of it. But one thing that struck me is there wasn't like people begging with cardboard signs, pitching a tent on the side of the road. If there was people, they would be running out in the street trying to wash your windows or at least trying to work or sell flowers on the side of the road. Like, even though there's a lot more poverty there, you just didn't really see it. And over here, you see the guy pitching a tent and just begging because he's on drugs. And over there, they're just trying to work. They're just trying to get a meal for themselves or their family. And it was actually very inspiring. And even with my daughter, there was a man selling seashells. He was cleaning it with the toothbrush. And we were going to buy a seashell. And because my daughter walked up, he like went back and gave the biggest one to her. And he didn't have to do that. So,
that was cute.
Daisy and I turned around. I think we, gave him $20-$30 and like, he started praying. And that felt so good to give that to that man, because I don't feel good giving it to an American guy, which he's going to just go and, put a needle in his arm. Like we made this and the guy was praying and that was one of the highlights of my trip because I know that it went to a good cause.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kids over there, like they don't really have childhood. Like they're working as soon as they're like born. Like my mom and my dad, they started working like since they can remember. They don't even remember when they weren't working because they had to help grandma and grandpa, like, with the cattle, with, the sheep and like, with the food, and one incident that I'm always kind of impressed because I never got to see it firsthand, but I saw it firsthand, like being in Mexico. And Jesus and I had gone to, where was it? It was... I'm trying to think of, Rosarito. It was in Rosarito. Okay. And there's a bunch of people like trying to sell you like, stuff. And then Jesus and I were walking and this little kid, like he must have been like 6 or 7 years old. And you see it all the time. I don't know if you've ever driven across like the border.
Oh, like the Chiquitas or something? Or they sell the gum?
Yeah, well, they sell that too. But like in the border when you're waiting, like there's always kids hustling there. And this kid, like he was trying to sell us like a flower and he was such a good salesman. I was like, man, I feel like I'm talking to like a little tiny adult. Like he was just so well spoken for being so young. And I was just like, wow, like that is amazing. And then again, I hadn't been to Mexico like that in a really long time. So it was kind of like, I think it was like 20 years since I had been in Mexico. It was
wow.
like, yeah, it was a long time. And then, no, it was probably not 10 years. It was probably 15 or 10. But anyways, yeah. And then when we were driving back, that's when I saw even more kids like selling like, you know, the chicles and like the, just like anything, like trying to like, and it's just like really sad to see because they don't experience childhood like we do here.
Right. Mm-hmm. It is sad to see from a financial aspect, but I don't know if you got the same vibe, but I saw happiness. Like, yeah, they might not have the financial means out there, but you know, I see that they're happy and loving families versus out here, there's some, you know, people in good sides of the town, they're not happy. And I'm just talking to them. And that's one thing, you know, Ryan was saying that at a high level, some of these people are depressed and not happy with themselves. And so that just goes to show you that money can't create happiness, you know, and seeing, they've seen it firsthand in Culiacan. They were happy people dancing and, you know, just, I guess the priceless things that we talked about.
Yeah. It's cause like, it's over there. It's like all about family. Like, when my grandma passed away, we buried her in Guanajuato. So I hadn't been to Guanajuato in, I don't even remember when I was like a little girl. And I got to see how people live out there. And although they don't have a lot, like they really have like this like community of like helping each other out, you know, and everyone gets along and, you know, it's about getting together and, you know, like just making the most of it, like of whatever little you have, you know, like one out will be making the, you know, tortillas and another one is like making the rice and the other one's, you know, and everyone has like their own little like job duty, but like they're all like having a good time with it. Yeah. And like, I'm just like, wow. And like here in the States, like it's not like that. Like we always talk about when people from our family from Mexico come and visit us here. And then when they go over there, like they see how different like the culture is. Because here we're always like, we got to go to work. We got to go clock in. And over there, like, it's not so much about that. It's more about like living in the present and just like enjoying life. And it is a very like hard culture shock. I'm sure you got to experience it because you guys were staying with Daisy's family, right? Or like near that. And I'm sure you got to see like the, you know, how like they were interacting and how they were like spending time with like the family and stuff. And I think over there, it's like family's everything. Right. And there's a lot of takeaways. The food, though, will make me happy. Oh, my gosh. The food is amazing. Mexican food, much props. Like, to me, it's the best food in the world. Even the beans are just like, because my mom makes the same food here, but like, it's just like the actual like produce. Like, there's something different about it over there. Like, it's cleaner or something. It doesn't have all the chemicals that we spray in it and stuff. So, really organic stuff. But it just tastes like, it just has like the beans will have like a more intense taste than over here, and like the avocado too, like it was just like more, I don't know how to describe it, like more avocado-y. Like I don't know. My father-in-law and I were always just talking about the meat. The meat was different. Yes, the meat, the milk, like the cheese. Oh my gosh, the cheese has so much flavor. Making me want to go back now. I know, me too. But no, this has been an awesome podcast, Marisol. Is there anything that you want to leave, maybe the audience? I mean, there was a ton of takeaways. I'm sure a lot of people take away value, a lot of female bosses out there. Is there anything you want to, any message or anything you want to leave out there? Just never give up and don't be afraid to make mistakes and keep pushing and have fun while doing it, because again, life is about having fun too. So wow, that's wisdom right there. So what a way to close it off. Thank you again. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time we do a podcast. No, I mean, definitely not. Yeah, and I got to learn a lot about you, even in more depth. So and just more respect. So thank you for having me on, Scott. I am like excited to see your personal brand also blow up, because I know it's a matter of time. And then and then also Western Pioneer, like I'm excited. I feel like this year for Western Pioneer, like the vibes are just there, and everyone it just really truly feels like family here. So I'm excited to see how Western Pioneer finishes the year, and then also you you, Scott and Daisy, the family. Like, you know, I'm excited for you guys too.
Appreciate it. Can't do it alone. Comes with a great team. But yeah, onward and upward.
Yeah,
So
no, thank you for
thank
having
you
me
again.
on. All right.
All right.